And now we are in a different generation that has just been born, and it's called Generation Z. Generation Z are the children of millennials, and now they don't care for what millennials cared for. Millennials cared for access. Sindio? Now we have a generation that is called the cultureless generation that doesn't know Joseph. Yeah? A cultureless generation that does not care for the same things. They don't care for gadgets and fashion. That's all millennials care for. They now care. They are saying authenticity is the new smart. Yeah. And they're saying this is the most conscious generation, because this is generation that knows our inheritance has been squandered anyway. So they are bitter. So think of it. They know that to me waste. They know we are wasting. They know there is nothing left for them anyway. And they are conscious. So these kids are talking about completely different things. These kids don't care to stand and look the part. No. They care for authentic. Look at baby superstars. All these superstars that are below 18. They don't dress a certain way. But you know what they're singing about? Pain. Because pain is authentic. We're back to scars. So in ancient history, therefore, since the king was insisting that that is the way, then everyone wanted to disciple an apprentice. And discipling an apprentice became a difficult thing to do when everyone wanted to disciple an apprentice so that they may be honored by the king. So people got to a place where they were now approaching young apprentices to be submitted to them for discipleship. And the apprentices were saying, why you? You have to earn the right to allow me to let you disciple me. And this was the statement. Unless you take me to your secret chambers and strip your armor for me to see your scars, you cannot disciple me. They sound very familiar. They sound like Generation Z. This is the problem. Currently we have young leaders, not necessarily because young people are the smartest, but because young people are the majority. The last generation is always the majority. So a time is coming soon when Generation Zs will be the majority. But this is the thing. They are called the cultureless generation. What do we know of a cultureless generation? We know nothing. We know they are unpredictable. We know, for all we know, we can only imagine that when we get to a point and become a burden to them at our 65th plus, who knows? Wanaweza kutoka kwa lori watumwage kwa mto. We don't know. They are cultureless. We are a burden. They are not the Commonwealth generation. They're bitter. Hey, you squandered. Where is your man? You have nothing. What do you mean you have nothing? Where are you? So we come back to values. It's important for us to work on the spiritual mind of ourselves and our children. We may not get the opportunity to leave them anything. What if it will mean nothing? It will be so insignificant there. Because they'll be able to think faster, better, quicker, more efficient. We're empowering them, we're taking them to better schools than we went to. We're trying to give them all these things. Why do we think that all these things won't work? Values is important, and values brings us to the spirituality, the commitment of building something that matters inside of them. A compass, a foundation. Yeah. Inside of us. How do we do it inside of them unless we have it inside of us? So the first mind is the spiritual mind, and the first pillar in the spiritual mind is values. The second one is philosophy. Philosophy now gets us to a place where they now have a compass of good and bad. But compass of good and bad is not sufficient. We are, as a generation, currently at a place where we are completely conflicted because we have values, but we don't have results. And the church-going population is completely frustrated. Yeah. Because we thought values are enough. Yeah. So we know right, wrong, and we try to be on the right, sindio? But yet we don't have still anything to show, yet we've been on the right all along. So we get to a point where we start feeling as though God cheated us. So we are completely bitter with God. And when he speaks about forgiveness, the first guy to be forgiven is him. We have to just find in ourselves ways to forgive God, because we are blaming him for the values that never gave us results. The conflict of interest of a society is expecting values to bring multiplication. Values have nothing to do with multiplication. Values have everything to do with sisi kutomwago kwa mto. That's all. But we have to adapt some philosophies, some laws, some principles for multiplication. And we have to breach this conflict of interest, because it says, for God so loved the world that he gave, whoever believes shall have eternal life. There are a few conflicts of interest. Number one is family. Number two, parents, because they are the biggest peddlers of fear. When your mom tells you, if I were you, it's over. Yeah? The second conflict of interest is education. Education has changed. There were days of traditional education, and now there is alternative education. And alternative education is media-based education. So, as well, education has had a conflict of interest for a long time. Why? Because kids are looking at this professor, lecturer, teacher, and he's telling them the secrets, the philosophies of changing their lives completely. And they're like, wow, you had these secrets all along. How come hujazitumia? How come sikuacha hapo kwa stage ukinyeshewa? You get? It's a conflict of interest. And now the other conflict of interest is spiritual, and clergy is carrying the conflict of interest with their knowledge or without their knowledge. Clergy is coming in a place where they're saying, when you have a problem and you go and you say, sina rent, ninoma, things to do with school fees, health, and they tell you, let's close our eyes and pray. Yeah, because prayer is the essence of believing. So they're telling you indirectly or directly, let's believe for multiplication. Yeah. And when you're like, I really want to be close to God, man, I really want to have a relationship, and they'll tell you, I'll tell you what to do. Why don't you join the choir? Make sense? So it's a conflict of interest. Believe for multiplication and do for eternal life. But the principle is inverted, because as we said earlier, this book of the law shall not depart from your mouth. This book of philosophies, this book of laws shall not depart from your mouth. Meditate upon it day and night, that you shall be careful to do. Yeah. So that we may be able to forgive God here, we just need to appreciate, understand, and accept that God does not do. God speaks. Yeah. He doesn't do. Yeah. There's nowhere he did. But there are places he. Yeah. So this is the thing. January is, of course, all the churches are going to the mountain. The ratio of the prayers in the mountain are split into two. Yeah? So the highest, plus 80% of the prayers in the mountain are provisional prayers. Yeah. Minus 20% of the prayers in the mountain are direction prayers. Isn't it? But this is the thing. It should be vice versa. Yeah. That 80% of tukienda huko kuitana. Yeah. Tunaitania direction. You get? Because he says, I'll order your steps. He didn't say, I will do. So we go to the mountain and tell him to do. Alafu tunateremka. And we are bitter. You get? What do you mean? Sijakula hizo siku zote na you're not doing. But he doesn't do. So So let's cure the conflict of interest. We believe for eternal life. We do for multiplication. So philosophy, these are principles that we have to adopt. And if we adopt and they work, then we live as an inheritance for our children and their children's children's children. Yeah. This is what we're leaving behind. Forget about the money for like a bit, because our children for sure will not be broke. And the money is just the tool that we're using to harness philosophies that we can leave behind. Yeah. Seek ye first the yeah. Which kingdom? It's the same one that's talking about the book of the law. The kingdom that is built on philosophies. Sindio? And all these things shall be added unto you. Social mind is important. And social mind is both for us and for the people that we are discipling. The people that are behind us, our kids. Yeah, this session is for those kids and their kids' kids. And if we see it that way, then it simplifies things. It declutters. Social now brings us to a place of interdependence. Interdependence is a trait that we have to teach that probably we never had because we were never taught. Because we were told, hii raba, jenda nayo shule, ni yako, don't share. Yeah. So Commonwealth was never a concept to us. Yeah? Independence was a concept. Yeah. Let's see who's number one. Don't copy. If you copy, we'll take you. Yeah. So now we come out into business and we don't want to copy. Yeah? So same. So we go into life and we have these challenges that we don't want to copy. So we get into marriage and we have all these issues and you're like, sisi kuuliza nitakuwa nikikopi. So you get. Yeah. So something is built in us that we are stuck with. Yeah. And we die alone.
Next time on Clean Money Weekend.
Could it be possible that they were saying help, screaming at the top of their lungs, help, yet I'm 3 inches away and I couldn't realize that they were screaming for their lives? You get? And this analogy therefore is borrowed and is taken to where we are, in a community that cannot copy. Is it possible that you have your friends, your relatives that are 3 inches away from you and they're screaming help, and yet they'll die, literally, without our knowledge? Yeah? Because our social fabric is shaken.
This is Clean Money TV.